Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Geeked on Science. In today's video, we will be learning about the study of cell structure and function in science specifically. So today we're going to be learning about why do we have cells in the first place in our body. We're going to be learning about what are the different types of cells, as you can see. What organelles do cells contain, specifically animal cells, not plant cells in this video. We'll be doing that in a later video. And what are the different types of organelles and what are their functions is what we're going to be learning today. So sit back, enjoy, and I hope you learned something. And without further ado, let's go. So, introduction. What are the importance of cells in us? We all have wondered that question at one point. Cells provide the body with structure, so without cells, we would basically just be a glob on the floor. And they take in nutrients from food we eat. So think of your favorite food. For example, mine's is pizza currently. It used to be burgers, but we don't need to dive into that. So take in your favorite food. Mine's is pizza, for example. When I eat pizza, the digestive system, it can't use that food as energy as soon as we take it in. It has to be converted into something called glucose, and that's where cells come in. They take in those nutrients and convert it into glucose using mitochondria, which we'll learn about later. They also contain the body's hereditary material. They and can make copies of themselves. So basically what I mean by copies is they split into two. It's not some sci-fi UFO stuff. They just split into two, but we'll talk about that later in a cell division video in more specific detail. For now, all you have to know is they split into two. And we all started as one single cell in our mother's womb. Isn't that crazy, guys? And without cells, we would not be alive because they do everything for us. Well, they don't do it for us. They provide the structure so we can do it ourselves. So they're basically the building blocks of life, as everyone says. So what are the cell types? The different cell types, there are three actually. Most people only know two of them, the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. There are actually also a cell type called red blood cells that most people don't know about. So, what are they? The major cells that everyone knows about are prokaryotic and eukaryotic, so we'll start with those. The prokaryotic cells are cells of organisms who lack nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplasts, and other organelles, and they are usually bacteria or arachnia. And the eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, a membrane, and they form large and complex organisms such as animals, us, plants. Now, plants may not seem complex, but they are. And they are also larger in size by a few millimeters than prokaryotic cells. And finally, for the third and less known cells are the red blood cells. These transport the nutrients around the body, and they're made in bone marrow. So what I mean by transport nutrients, if you guys know about the circulatory system, then you should know these. They go in the circulatory system to the heart, to the lungs, and get oxygen and other nutrients from the heart and lungs, and get cleaned in the heart, and travel around the body, providing the necessary oxygen and nutrients, to the body. And it's made in the bone marrow, which is kind of surprising actually, considering the fact that once it's made, it goes to the heart, lungs, and back, but never really touches the bone. It just goes to the muscle. So, what's cell structure? So, the different organelles are the vacuoles, the clia, which is less known, but the lysosome, the Golgi apparatus, the nucleus, and the mitochondria. So let's start with the vacuoles. What are they? If you've ever seen garbage trucks, then you can imagine that as a vacuole in a cell. They are tiny bags of fluid that float around in the cell, collecting garbage and other dead material in the cell. the glia. These organelles are not actually inside the cell. They're outside of the cell, as you can see in the picture. And in your body, you're 60% made of water, so your cells actually need to move around. So the glia, what it does is move the water away from the cell, so it's easier for the cell to move around. And the lysosomes are basically the vacuole's partner, and these are also tiny bags of fluid, just like the vacuoles, but instead of collecting garbage, they digest food and dead organelles and then give nutrients from those dead organelles back to the cell, but all the waste goes straight to the vacuoles. And you might be thinking, well, how does the vacuole get it if all of it's just floating around? Well, that's where the Golgi apparatus comes in. The Golgi apparatus, it's an organelle like your Amazons, per se. It takes protein and transports them around the cell to where it's needed most. And your entire cell needs proteins, right? So, to function, it does that. Finally, the mitochondria and the nucleus. Let's start with the mitochondria. The mitochondria are like the batteries you have in your phone. They provide energy, but instead of the form of electricity, they provide it in the form of ATP. Due to ATP, these energy, the cell can actually function using the ATP and the proteins, and it's basically just a battery station. And it uses proteins to function, whereas the Golgi apparatus gives it to it. And finally, the nucleus. The nucleus is what we would call the most important part of the cell. It has the chromosomes/genes, and it literally contains the code of life, as they say. And what we mean by that is it contains how the cell should function, what type of cell it should be, if it's a eukaryotic, prokaryotic, red blood cell, and what part of the body that cell is in. If it's a stomach tissue, muscle tissue, heart tissue, or cardiovascular tissue, if you want to be specific. So, yeah, that's the basics of cell structure. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you did learn something from this video, I hope you guys will like, subscribe, and share for more videos. Please do post in the comments what you think I should do. Thank you so much.